This is gold. Oh my gosh, you put everybody else to shame. Hi, I'm Lauren O'Neill with Q101, and joining me now, the man responsible for not booking the bands you wanted in the location you wanted for free for the last 18 years. It's Riot Mike.
Hello.
Hi, friend.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. You are very busy right now.
Yeah, we're roughly a week away. A week and some change. The build starts in a few days, and yeah, it's happening.
And you look well. You look well rested. You look calm and collected.
It is the complete opposite. I am exhausted, just like entire staff is. I mean, we're just working 24 hours a day.
Well, I really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us. We're very excited for the Riot Fest 101 takeover of the airwaves on Saturday the 14th, starting at 10 in the morning. It is you. It is all your amazing staff at Riot Stuff headquarters taking over this radio station and just doing what you want with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. We've been looking forward to it, but with like the move back and stuff, it kind of got punted. But
Sure.
It's like kind of placed perfectly, the Saturday before, 6 days away. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
So what has been the biggest challenge this year? This is the first year in 18 years that you have started to move locations midway and then thankfully got to come back home, back in Douglas Park. What's been the biggest challenge with all that?
Doing the 360, and it's 19, right? And we should have, it was going to be our 20th anniversary.
Oh.
Right? We started in 05, but how anniversaries work, your fifth one is the fourth year in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So 05, 06, 07, 08, 09 is fifth anniversary. So when COVID happened, we got back onto fives and zero, and we're calling next year the 20th one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be 20 years next year. But in terms of this year, I was doing the 360 of leaving to go to Bridgeview. And then kind of midsummer, coming back. We went to point A to point A and hit a bunch of points in the middle, I guess.
I love how all of a sudden it's, the fourth anniversary is the 5th, the 18th, now we're the 20th. It's like Chicago construction time.
It is. It really is.
All of a sudden it's like dog years. Wait a minute. I thought this was only going to happen 2 months. Well, that's a huge accomplishment, and from a festival that, in my opinion, is the best festival in the entire world and has been going on for so long. First off, I'd like to go back and just dig into Riot Mike a little bit. I know you're from Buffalo. Do you remember when you first felt like this is what you wanted to do for a job? Did that strike you at all?
No. I mean, my only experience of shows before I started doing Riot Fest was going to shows in Buffalo, and then when I moved to Chicago in 2002, I was on track to be in academia. I don't want to get
Weren't you philosophy major?
Yeah, and literature, and but yes.
Nerd.
So I dropped out of graduate school and started Riot Fest like a couple months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your first concert?
One that meant something?
Sure. Well, so that means that his first concert was somebody embarrassing, which all of ours should be.
I think I saw like the Beach Boys, who I adore, clearly, who wouldn't, like opening up a midday game for the Buffalo Bisons, a AAA team.
Okay.
And I think that would it's a pretty good first show. It's the Beach Boys.
Hell yeah.
Could be worse.
Definitely.
Be far worse. But my first memorable one, it was definitely the Ramones in 1990, 91.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that show change you in any way?
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest Ramones fan until I saw them live. It was I just remember how amazing that show was. You know, on the studio, they're not playing on the studio albums. They're not playing very fast. It's just kind of like pretty much 4/4 time. You know, at 100 beats. Yeah, it's basic stuff. But when they play it live, it's like a million miles per hour. So they were, you know, able to do 30 songs in an hour, and it was just like, whoa. So it's still very hard for me to listen to the studio albums for the Ramones, but their live albums, like Local Live and stuff, oh yeah, it kind of takes me back. But that was, yeah, it changed my life. They instantaneously became one of my favorite bands.
That's one of my favorite things to hear from somebody after they go to a show is that, well, I wasn't the biggest XYZ fan beforehand, and then seeing them live changed everything for me. And that's one thing I love about Riot Fest is you curate this festival in such a way that there are bands that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think to seek out, but then they're right in front of you. And you put together bands like Slayer and the Village People, and it works. And everybody loves it. And it's just, I mean, the people that go to this festival are the best people in the world. The people that put it on are even better. And it's just my favorite weekend of the whole year.
It's a lot of likeness in terms of the people who go. There's like definitely a sense of community there. And the bands, I mean, we're pretty tongue-in-cheek about ourselves. That's why like we get the tone of who our crowd is. And having the Village People there, yeah, that makes sense. Having Corey Feldman there, yeah, it makes sense. You know, Insane Clown Posse, yeah, why not? All the while you have The Cure. It's who we are. I think it's what's kind of separate us from the pack when it comes to festivals, at least in North America. There's just something a little bit different about us. It's kind of that swirl of Riot.
Is there any band that, for whatever reason, you haven't been able to book that you've always wanted to?
The Sex Pistols, I've come close. Years ago, came close. But that's the one. That's the one band that did it for me.
Okay.
That's the reason why I got into punk rock and got into music was that band. Yeah, it was really young age, 4th grade or something, and it just like blew my mind.
Didn't I hear something about you falling asleep to Sex Pistols on your Walkman?
Absolutely. Like, it was like the roar, save the queen. Yeah, I'd wake up to like Johnny Rod and like sound like he was drowning. But yeah.
That's amazing. All right, so Sex Pistols, Riot Fest 2025. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, if it was for our 20th, I mean, that'd be
even
kind of special, just saying.
So let's go back to the beginning. You drop out of college at Loyola. You decide you're going to put on this festival at Congress Theaters the first year with Sean. What was the ethos? What is the impetus that made you take that first step?
I just needed to do something. I needed to, dropped out of school. I was in school for a while. It wasn't like I was like a freshman or something like that. I was working on my PhD, and so I went back to kind of one of my first loves, and that was music. And wouldn't it be cool just to have all my favorite bands play one show together? Never did I think it was going to be this. No way. I mean, that would be the greatest business plan ever created in a way. It would just all happened. I was still working a 9 to 5. And after the first year, I was like, I'm never doing this again. No way. And then the Naked Raygun reunion happened. I'm like, okay, maybe one more year. And then we did Bad Brains, part of that reunion, a year after. And then the Bosstones and All reunion in 2008, which led to 2009 of reuniting Screeching Weasel and doing my first Alkaline show. No Effects first time. I look, oh man, I guess it's the first time I'm really talking about it. That is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. All of it.
So, but it was year to year. It wasn't like, it was not I don't want to say it was like it didn't turn into like it became, I think after 2009 realized this is like, there's something to this. And I mean, even in 2011, our last year inside. I didn't want to go outside. Not at all.
Really?
No. I wanted to keep it within the clubs of Chicago, how we were doing it. So I didn't even think that last year we were like 5 days, and we probably did like 30 shows across town, whether it be at Metro, Congress, Beat Kitchen, all the venues that we used to use. But we were cannibalizing our audience, and there was like so many like shows going on at the same time, and we were trying to bus people everywhere. Then like that was our first go at logistics, and it just made more sense to take it outside.
And you did.
Yeah. And it wasn't, it wasn't the first one outside. The first one was Philadelphia. That was kind of to see. It was a one day in Philadelphia at one of the piers there. And I remember Descendants played, Dead Milkmen. It was a really great lineup, like really curated for Philadelphia, and it did really well. Better than I think anybody thought it would there. And I was like, man, maybe this could work outside. And yeah,
I think it's pretty brilliant because the layout in Douglas Park is, what's the right word to use? It's manageable.
Yeah.
It's big enough to fit an entire Riot Land. I'm very excited to see what Riot Land looks like in Douglas Park, but it's manageable enough. And this is the funniest thing when everyone starts complaining as soon as the schedules come out. And they're like, oh, God, my favorite bands are all playing at the same time. But you can logistically watch every band because the layout makes it in such a way that if you limber up and hydrate and book it, you can catch every single band that plays this festival.
You can. Really, from the 2 furthest stages this year is literally a 1.5-minute walk.
Wow.
Like, if there's nobody in there, you add, like, cutting through people or whatever. Like, it's still under 5 minutes. I don't think anybody reaches that.
How many more would it be if you're carrying 3 Riot Pops in your hands?
Oh.
Trying to maneuver.
Probably quicker because it has electrolytes.
They're very delicious. All right, so you touched on Naked Raygun reuniting. There is this special sauce that Riot Fest has that manages to get these bands that have either broken up or retired and just flat out like, we are done. Slayer, of all bands, reunited for this year after playing their last show at Riot Fest 5 years ago. Jawbreaker, Bikini Kill, The Replacements. What is that special sauce that Riot Fest has that gets these bands to do this just for you?
It's not really... Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. I think when they look at Riot, through the progression of it, even the very first year, we became the first time the Germs ever played outside of California was with us. Now, Darby was dead, but it was like a movie coming out, and so they had Shane West doing it. But that's how I met Pat Smear. So... because that's his first band.
Hell yeah.
Right, and that's why when he joined Nirvana, they, both, I think, Kurt and definitely Dave, they're big Germs fans, right? It's kind of cool. Because Pat kind of is like an amazing rhythm guitar player. He just created a style that is just like, it's awesome. And only he can do it right in a way. Anyways, so what was the question? I kind of drifted.
How do you get these bands that have flat out come forward, said, we are done, we're never playing again, and then they'll pop up a couple years later on a Riot Fest lineup?
It's, over the years, the festival, it's an easy landing for them, the crowd. There was plenty of reunions that happen at other festivals across the nation. And, I don't mind telling this story. I remember my first and only time at Coachella, and it was, I don't even remember what year it was, but they did a huge reunion with Stone Roses. I think it may have been, they only did a couple shows in the U.S. or something like that. Great band, great booking. But it was at night, and so it was competing with all the DJs. So this is like 2014, 15, somewhere around that range. And there literally must have been 1,000 people watching them. that is a tough pill to swallow, especially for a band like that. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I get what's going on, right? This is a beautifully curated festival, but the crowd for them couldn't get tickets. And you can't choose who's really coming to your show. I think with Riot, one, it's an easy landing. Now they have to bring their A game. They can't sound like crap, right? So that's stress.
On the contract.
I'd rather have that stress than worrying about, like, is there going to be enough people watching this? But in the decision of bands saying yes to Riot, or it's just, I don't know. I think I built bonds with some of these artists.
Absolutely.
It's not like, it's not like, the last thing I would ever want is to somebody assume that, like, I'm super opportunistic with this stuff. I mean, there's artists who, I think in 2 years there's going to be an awesome reunion.
Ooh.
It's amazing. But that first conversation happened in 2016.
Wow.
And he said if he'd ever do it, it would be with me. So, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Amazing. People have a tendency, and I get it because I've been from that perspective of going to all these shows and looking at, the guys who are on stage and being like, wow, you have this, like, idealistic sense of them in a way. That's why you're a fan of the band. Mm-hmm. But in the end, they're just people. And a lot of them are brilliant. And, the music as a medium, I get that. And I get why they're particular about things. I get context of their songs, and I'm able to see where they came from.
Well, and that separates you from any other booker or promoter for all these festivals that are popping up all over the country. It's just like, here's another one, here's another one. This one is very quintessential Chicago, very specifically great bands of any genre. Very much everyone is welcome. And, bands obviously acknowledge that. You're the only independent festival in the entire country?
No. There's plenty, but there's not like it used to be, not even close. Just look at Chicago, right? Lala was independent when it was C3 and no longer. Pitchfork is owned by Condé Nast, I think. So I think they are. North Coast is now in Bridgeview. Same thing with Summer Smash. Those are both indie. So we're like the last kind of one in Chicago.
Has that been difficult to stay completely independent?
It is. It's true to my heart to... I look at big corporations involved in music, and this is also on a record label side, and is that even, huge back in the day, like Tower Records and all that kind of stuff, that they're culture killers because they just homogenize and just dull creativity. Scenes are created by independents. It's not like, big, huge concert promoters in the basements. That's just not how it goes. So that's where they, if you hit any tinge of mainstream or create pop culture in a way. Mm-hmm. But it begins in the basements. It begins with independence, not having any limitations in what you're creating. And if nothing else, I think we provide an awesome platform from that. But yeah, it comes with a ton of additional burdens, as they say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sacrifice.
Stuff. Yeah.
Hard
I've
work.
given up my life for this. And so a lot of my employees, it's like, it's a passion that it came from, like, I really started in a basement. So the work, the ethic, the why it was built and why people care is just how it was built. And if we didn't have the club presence and all the great indie bands that have played Riot, and some of them are majors and stuff like that, I totally get it, but I know their roots and where they come from. Yeah, it fits. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Best festival in the entire world.
Sometimes.
Somebody once said that Riot Fest sucks. Any comments?
Yeah, it totally sucks. It totally sucks. We're doing that like Riot Fest Historical Society Museum. It's a collaboration a little bit with the Punk Rock Museum too. And like the facade of it is the Fireside Bowl. And
I love that.
people walk in, it's going to be a museum of all like stupid stuff that we do and some really cool stuff that the Punk Rock Museum from Vegas is bringing. How was I going with that? I was just like thinking.
Why Riot Fest sucks?
Oh, why Riot Fest sucks, yeah. So in 2008, on a Friday evening, when I was working on Riot, I just blurted out the words Riot Fest sucks. So I was like just over it. Like something was going on, I'm just like over it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Riot Fest sucks. My friend Nick, who was helping me with it at the time, heard me say it. On Monday, on my door was taped a Riot Fest Sucks shirt with like, it was pink, like it was bedazzled, right? With like skull and crossbones, right? And it's like Riot Fest Sucks. And I'm trying to find it because it's a one of one. I need it for the museum, but that's actually where it started. And I'm like, oh yeah, that would work on a shirt. And that year I started putting it on shirts and nobody got it. Like it just, people were like, walking around in town and be like, Riot Fest doesn't suck. Like I saw it happen once to me. Yeah, it's crazy.
I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, that's your first reaction. So then you're like, oh yeah, you're cool.
Yeah, and if anybody's like kind of complaining about you online, it kind of deflates that too.
Yeah, it's like we suck.
Yeah, we suck.
All right, and I remember when I bought the hat immediately when I saw it. I was like, yes, still have that hat. Had it for a long time. What is something that people don't know about you in particular, Riot Mike, that they should?
That they should. I got a crazy baseball card collection. That's one. But about me personally, super introverted. I think that's pretty
That
telling,
is,
though.
I think, a hilarious thing that people would never know.
You don't think people know?
No.
Oh, yeah, I don't have any sense
You're
of that.
Riot Mike, dude.
Yeah, I'm really quiet. Cerebral, as they would say.
A philosopher, one would say.
Yeah. But I think, it's public. I came out last year with it, but I am autistic. So if people don't know that, they should. It's, not they should, but yeah, that's what probably makes me a little bit, so.
And this was only last year that you received the diagnosis, yes?
Yeah. It's weird it's 45 at the time or was I 44? Whatever, all the same. To know that, your brain does work completely differently, and it's kind of like the unmasking of it. I wouldn't trade. Like, I don't think I'm like getting like something special or anything like it's not like that. But I think if I would have been diagnosed earlier in my life, it probably would have been a little bit easier. But I wouldn't trade it in, because had that happened, there probably wouldn't be a Riot Fest.
Wow. That's deep to have that kind of insight.
Yeah, it kind of caught it. Like, it's been like a year of like, oh, that's why my brain does this. Why I have like struggle with this. It's usually social stuff.
Yeah.
It's daunting. So, instead, you create something that you would never go to because you wouldn't be able to enjoy for everybody else.
What is the best thing that came after that diagnosis? Was it a sense of relief?
Yeah, it was. it's kind of even like, I probably read like thousands of pages of studies of being. So at first, I didn't I'm not autistic, right? I'm just introverted. No, but it was an unraveling, and still is. It's like, there's no there's things, methodologies you can use to help on daily stuff, but in many ways, I am thankful, right? Because of it, probably, I don't know, because of it, I was able to make a lot of people smile.
I think you also are helping to remove that. There's a stigma. There's a stigma still in 2024 related to mental health and any subsect of that. And I think we know a lot about autism, but do we? I don't think we have enough people speaking on behalf of the topic and really sharing like you have, and just come out. And you're the second person I know that as an adult received a diagnosis. And it's for my girlfriend Trish also. At the time it was, okay, so wow, now I can go back, and all these things throughout my life make so much sense now, but it's just something I would never have even considered myself as a part of until a doctor told me that that's actually what it is.
Yeah, there's so many different, the reason why it's hard to even diagnose is because there's so many different levels in how it presents itself in people. There's some core stuff where lack of eye contact, and when people stim, and I do it. I do this all the time with my fingers. I didn't realize I've been doing it my entire life.
I thought you were just keeping the beat.
Yeah, but it presents itself differently. But I look on it now that, especially with the nonverbal autists, that they're communicating in a way that nobody can understand. They just have trouble from their brain going to their mouth in a way. It's not that their brains aren't abundantly active. And when they scream, right, because they can't vocalize, I know that feeling. I know a sense of that.
Really?
But at the same time, they could step up to a piano and play Mozart within, a couple times of hearing it. That's how they communicate. And when the majority of the population can't relate to that, it's hard to diagnose.
Sure.
It's really like, I've come to find out that at least on the theories of it, and are usually the best ones are people who have who are autistic, like high functioning Asperger's, whatever. They are all just kind of all in one now, but just so everybody else can have a definition of it in a way.
Well, and I think it's very true, no matter what the affliction, no matter what the dialect, the dialogue, music is the universal language that
it helps.
I think we all have in common and can relate to. And that's why these Riot Fest is such an important time for so many people. So many people travel in from all over the world just to be in Douglas Park for this very special weekend every year.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with a kid I started listening to music when I was really, really young. Came from a very musical household, so all 50s music, jazz, and yeah, I got it. Love it.
Love that.
But it was really, fourth grade, Walkman on.
Yeah.
And that was soothing. I was the kid always with headphones on, no matter where I went, so I was always listening to music. And it was very autistic of me to do that, but in that, I studied the hell out of this music, and I just saw patterns that's how I'm able to connect music, and that's why, everybody in the office is there's a pattern to how we do stuff, and it's like connectivity between the bands of generally sonically, but it's also within lyric and even region and influence, but yeah. 4th grade, Walkman, listening to the Pistols.
It's amazing. I want to do a segment called Story Time with Uncle Riot Mike. Does anyone call you Uncle Riot Mike?
No, but I'm of age where, yes, I should be Uncle Mike.
Because after, curating Riot Fest for almost 2 decades now, I'm sure you have so many stories.
I do.
I don't know if there's one that comes to top of mind for you.
This is like a library of stories.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% always sure what's... Give me a few bands or something. Give me a lifting off.
Okay,
point.
I have some things that I would like you to bring up. Okay. Like your first meeting with Dave Grohl.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't there a Naked Ray Gun tie-in?
Yeah, so years before, the Foos did, I think it was just Dave, or maybe it was the Foos, and so they did that thing on HBO.
Sonic Highways.
Sonic Highways, and I think episode 1 was Chicago. Mm-hmm. Knowing that, he was a DC hardcore kid, and, his first show was, I think, at the Cubby to see Verboten, who are playing this year. I don't know if there was some kind of cousin relationship or something.
Yeah,
that took him to the show, but there was also something with the band. I don't remember 100% sure, but anyways, he saw Naked Ray Gun and changed his life. He had a Ramones moment, so to speak.
Yeah,
and he was very young, 12 or something, 14, very young. So when he was doing because I think that whole docuseries, whatever, was just picking out cities and talking about musical influence. Well, Naked Ray Gun was there. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of, it wasn't documented really all that well, the early Chicago punk rock scene. But when I did the documentary, the Ray Gun documentary in 2007 from the reunion, I had to go find a lot of this stuff. So I was able to archive it. And I should also say I was, at the time, managing Naked Ray Gun. So they reached out, and I just gave them all the stuff that they couldn't find. So indirectly, we met. I think Jeff even did an interview for that. So fast forward, I don't talk to artists. I really don't.
That surprises me.
I have to be pushed into this stuff. So I'm walking around with their agent, or one of their agents is a friend of mine named Josh Kerfers. His dad managed the Ramones, actually. Really great dude. And his dad also managed not only the Ramones, but Talking Heads, Bob Marley for a little bit. Yeah, legend.
It's a good guy to know.
Gary Kerfers, I knew exactly who his dad was when I walked into his office, saw Ramon. I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, is your dad Gary Kerfers? Was Gary Kerfers? And he's like, yeah, that's my dad. Wow, that's awesome. All the stories. So he was like, hey, you should go see the band. And I'm like, so we go back there. Yeah, I get pushed there, and there's Dave, and I'm like, we get introduced. And within seconds, we were talking about Stiff Little Fingers. And we just start talking, we talked about the first Naked Ray Gun, Basement Screams, he being how he's going to maybe, was thinking about doing I Lie on stage as an intro or something. But then at some point, Fletcher from Pennywise came in, and Fletcher's 7 foot, I mean, he's huge. And he was in there because him and Dave are friends. And then I look over, and I saw Chris Novoselic there, sitting. And I'm talking to Dave, I'm like, what the? You have 3/4 of Nirvana, right, at Riot. I didn't know he was coming. So my brain's talking to Dave. I mean, my mouth's talking to Dave, and I'm seeing this, and I'm like, this is bizarre. I had no idea. And I guess they were doing an in utero interview the next day or something, so he was in town, but he was on stage, stage left, and watching them, and that's a moment, right? So then Dave was just talking about how Chuck Biscuits, this legendary drummer, showed up to be the guitar player for Foo Fighters to try out or something like that. It was just nuts. It was a really cool dude. He knows a lot about music, I'll tell you that much.
Yep. And barbecue.
Yeah, I heard that about that.
He's a big barbecue guy. We should have it. Maybe he can like help cater next year's Riot Fest.
I think he had the band had a great performance. My mom made brownies for Pat.
Oh.
Yeah, so my mom made all the baked goods the first year at Riot Fest for all the bands. And I remember like going up to catering and I see my mom talking to Pat Smear. She has no idea who he is. None. All right. And I just like, and I just like left and went back to my production office. He gave her his address because he loved the brownies so much. And my mom was sending him brownies.
Oh my gosh. That's
so this year, my mom made brownies. She wasn't there, but she sent them along with my cousin who came from Buffalo to give to Pat.
That's incredible.
Yeah, full circle.
Your mom getting the digits.
And she's like, "Oh, take a photo. I want to see. He's such a lovely boy." That's what she.
Oh my God. Ugh. All right. How about a story about sharing emails with Robert Smith? Is there something there?
No, that was letters. Those were letters.
Oh, actual letters.
Yeah.
Like snail mail?
Yes. No, it was given to him that night.
Oh,
so,
like passing a note in class.
Yeah. It was actually pretty epic. So that was the Cure year, the first time, whenever it was, when they did 3 shows with us: Toronto, Chicago, and Denver. And that was a big deal. Holy smokes, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I just respect Robert. Brilliant guy. Holy smokes, is he brilliant. And outside of music, too, of just how his brain works. He's a very authentic and nice guy. He's better than you think. He's one of them. So, after the last one, which was in Denver, the Cure's agent, Carol, was there, and she's like, he's extending an invitation to come to the hotel after the show just to hang out, maybe have a glass of wine or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. In my head, I'm like, that's not going to happen, right? And this is like happening as we're watching them play, right? So...
Don't tell me you turned down Robert Smith.
I did. So instead, I wrote him a 6-7 page letter during the remainder of the set, and about my first time seeing them. And I just remember I communicate well with letters. And I apologize I couldn't go, but, it was an awesome letter. I think I was definitely probably making some he's a literary guy too, so I was probably doing a little bit of that. Anyways, he got passed to him, and the next morning I get an email from the agent. Now, Carol, she's like the Jackie Robinson of female agents. She's a powerhouse, Cure, Radiohead. Oh, like she's epic agent. She's amazing. And that's why she has great clients like Robert,
Mm-hmm.
Send me a letter that Robert got the letter, loved it, and because of, the 3 days and that night and everything, that they enjoyed themselves so much that they danced till dawn. Which I saved that email. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So, yeah.
That is so Robert Smith.
It is, isn't it? And when the show was that great, because one thing I've realized with Robert, it takes him a long time to make a decision. I totally get that, because he has to be able to see himself at your event. When he's controlling a tour or something like that, it is like repetitive on a daily basis. Maybe change up the set, do little things or what have you. But in doing a festival is tough for a band like The Cure. You have to be able to feel the crowd. Like last year's Cure set, man,
unreal.
That might be one of the greatest sets. Not only, it's one of the best sets I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, it was everything. I mean, they're here this past summer, which was summer of last year. So there was only like a 3-4 month gap in between that show and us, and it was completely different. And he put his brain to it, and it was amazing. And I am very thankful. So, yeah, I think maybe he thinks of that letter so often. I think about that email, and maybe one day we'll actually talk in person.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I love that story. How about I'm going to approach this with trepidation because I don't know if I actually want to know the answer here, because 2024 Riot Fest, one of the biggest aspects, I think, of the lineup this year is NoFX playing all 3 days, their final shows. And I know you have a lot of stories. And specifically, do we have to talk about Cokie the Clown?
A little bit, maybe. So, yeah, this is, I mean, they're one of, it's weird not going to have NoFX ever play Riot again. I do think this is it.
Really?
It's, I've gotten to know Mike, Fat Mike from the band, over the past 2 years. Again, we didn't talk. They've been playing Riot since '09, played multiple cities. I don't know how many times they played, a dozen times. I don't really talk with many artists. Now, people within their organization, like Kent, he's like, you know, he PMs them, he tour manages them, does sound, he was their agent at one time and manager. It's like, he's like the other member in a way. I became really tight with him that we're in the same fantasy football league and stuff.
Nice.
And we always hang out. But Mike, we didn't really, the first time we ever talked on the phone was discussing playing Riot, because they're doing their own punk and drublic for the final tour and stuff. And I do believe we're probably the only festival that they're actually doing.
I think so.
So the conversation started a few years ago about playing 3 days and doing this or that, and that kind of turned into where we are now. You know, this is like kind of the final shows before their hometown shows. I mean, my sense of it is just, I think it's it. It sucks, but I mean, this is going to be, things always change, I guess, but I think, I mean, they never had a hiatus really or anything. They've been at it non-stop for how many years, and so I just want to give them a great send-off. I appreciate Mike. I appreciate everybody in that band. Smelly, they're all great. And we're coming to a point where a lot of those kind of, you know, the Bad Religions, the Rancids, and all that. It's that chapters could be slowly closing in a way for a lot of them.
Don't say that.
But they've passed it forward, you know. They really have. Rancid never broke up. Dropkick's got a new singer, but they never stopped. And I hope they carry on, you know, for much longer than NoFX. But NoFX, I mean, created a label. You want to talk about independent? The guy sold 7-8 million albums, probably, essentially out of their van. You know, Fat Mike owns Fat Wreck, or yeah, still owns Fat Wreck. They just did it themselves, and left
DIY.
a huge imprint of, like, you know, even their shows are doing crazy numbers, like stuff they've never seen before, like 20,000 a day kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Good for them.
Well, I would say it's amazing to hear you say, I feel like this is the end, because that seems so final. But I don't know. There's something about Riot Fest. It has this special sauce. Gets bands to keep playing.
I think, you know, listen, everybody knows. I remember, I think it was like, it was a secondhand story, but I think it was Ken from Dropkicks told when the Bosstones broke up again. And I think him and somebody, I think it was the Bosstones, maybe it was somebody else, being like, yeah, break up and then just, you know, go to Riot Fest in 5 years.
That's, you know, on so many bands.
The plan, yeah.
Yeah, that's a business plan. All right. I think this is a question a lot of people have. I'm not going to ask too much about him, but we are wondering if the Riot Fest Twitter guy is nice. Is he, like, secretly nice?
Ooh, he is sweet and sour.
It's like a Sour Patch Kid. He's a real-life Sour Patch Kid. We figured it out.
Yeah, he's sweet and sour. I think that's a good way of putting it. And he's got a tongue that lashes.
And a keyboard to match.
Right.
God bless the Riot Fest Twitter guy. What is the best gift that you ever received?
Whoa. The gift of life. No.
Thanks, Mom, and for the brownies.
Right. Jeez. I don't want to be cheesy or anything like that, but I mean, the last 20 years, I have, it's unique. It's been a crazy journey. I've met a lot of amazing people. Yeah.
Riot Fest is
I think
the
it's
gift
the gift, yeah,
that
in a
keeps
way.
on giving.
It just wasn't, it wasn't supposed to be any of this.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it
we're
was
all
just
very
sublimation
fortunate.
in a way, you know?
It's amazing. What is a piece of concert etiquette that everyone should know?
Deodorant. I mean, I get it, you don't want to. Like, I get it, some are just purists, but man, at least, like, take a bar of soap to it or something before or something, yeah. It's just, it's one of my, it's just like, hands up, right? And that just blocking, but don't be drunk and stupid. If somebody falls down, you pick them up, you know, especially if you're, like, in the pit and stuff like that. General rules apply. If somebody falls up, pick them up.
So my favorite place to be, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but my favorite place in the whole wide world is to be in the pit at a concert. That's just where I feel the most alive. I just meet the best people, have the most fun. It's also where I suck the most farts because I don't know what it is about people getting ready to go into a mosh pit. They're just like slamming chili dogs and drinking beer, and then they get in there and just bust their asses open. It's like, oh! So I always ask, dude, okay, fart, but like take it out of the pit, because you know,
Like,
I'm
especially
sure you
the
know.
bigger dudes, yeah.
It
They're
just,
like munching on turkey legs and stuff before they go in, you know?
and it just hangs around. Just take it out of the pit and then come back, and we'll all have fun.
And they got the BO too, a lot of those dudes. They're like covered in like dust and yeah.
Ugh.
My pit days are over with. Like,
No.
yeah.
I'm gonna drag you in
Broken bones and stuff.
there. All right, your last purchase on Amazon is your weapon in battle. What is it?
Oh man, I'm screwed. There were top loaders for baseball cards. A case of them. When am I fling them at my?
Yeah, you could do some damage. Is it plastic?
It's plastic, so I can
Okay.
melt down the plastic and probably make some kind of shanks.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. All right, I have 2 more questions. You've been very generous with your time today, and these are kind of ridiculous, but what's your porn name? It's the first pet you had and the street you grew up on.
Oh man, it's bad. Howard Marlo.
Howard Marlo?
Yeah.
That sounds like a real porn
It does,
name.
doesn't it? Like
He's the guy that comes in and catches the pizza boy with the wife. You're the
Howard.
husband.
I am.
Howard Marlo.
Howard Marlo. Actually, it does have a ring to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could be like British too or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Howard.
But Howard, it was Howard Johnson. It was a frog. The other one was a cat that was like a feral cat that kind of became my cat for a little bit. So it could be Kitty Marlowe too, which. But the
Kitty Marlowe?
Howard came first, yeah.
This is gold. Oh my gosh, you put everybody else to shame. All right, finally, we love to hear it. Riot Mike, what is your favorite thing about Chicago?
Whoa, that's a loaded question. My favorite thing about Chicago. I love that it's a huge city, but it doesn't feel like it. That was one of the reasons why I moved here. It's not intimidating. It's a very like meat and potatoes, city of broad shoulders kind of feel, but it's like a lot of family in that. There's like a connectivity in Chicago that Buffalo has. Like we could all day long make fun of Buffalo. Anybody else does it, you're dead. And the same thing is with Chicago.
Totally.
And because of it, you have just these neighborhoods that like make it what it is. And New York's fun for a day or two, maybe. Chicago's just like, it's got its own vibe, its own groove, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. It's a cool city, and anybody who comes here, you know, from like anywhere warm, they're like, during some like, if Chicago was like this all year round, You know, I don't care. I grew up in Buffalo. The winter's great. I don't mind it one bit. But yeah, it's that. It's huge city. Doesn't feel like it.
Well, we are so lucky that you decided to move here and bring us this incredible festival.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Riot Fest back home in Douglas Park in just a few short days. September 20th, some passes still available. And then, of course, most of the late night shows, I believe, are sold out. 5 nights of late night shows, 3 days of Riot Fest, everything you need to know, riotfest.org, q101.com. Mike, thank you so much for stopping by.
No, thank you for having me. This was great.
This is amazing. And I'm dragging you in the pit in a couple weeks.
Maybe one last time.
Yay!
The last waltz.
Right. We'll see you at Riot Fest.